I'm not sure how well you can see it, but there's a black flex hose coming out from my dust collector, the Cyclone. I use flex hose there because when you start it up, it moves a little bit, and then when you shut it down, it jerks a little bit. So I wanted a flex hose so I didn't have any issue with a hard pipe. That flex hose goes into a 4-inch pipe which runs along the top of the shop to a 45 here, and that 45, that actually uses PVC cement, and then down the wall to a 45 here. And you'll notice I started using screws, and there's a reason for that. I don't know if I'm gonna leave this or if this is gonna work. So that part, the main trunk, is gonna be pretty well set in stone. This part here is gonna get worked with. And let me explain what I'm doing. Let's just go to the first trunk. The first trunk here, I've got a blast gate, okay? And there's 1, 2, 3 outlets. Those 3 outlets are all currently 4-inch. They're going to control a 2-inch outlet for the bandsaw, an 1 3/4 for the spindle sander, and a 2-inch outlet for the disc belt sander. Now, what my thought is I'm going to leave them, since we're choking them down, and I have one of the devices there. Here's another one here that I'll use. Since I'm choking those down, I'm thinking I may be able to leave all 3 of them running at once, because I really hate to choke that big dust collector down to just 2-inch opening. So my thought is I'll have 5 3/4 inches of openings. You know, if that becomes an issue, I can always disconnect the bolt and stick another blast gate in to kind of control it. But I was thinking if all 3 of these ran at once, they're primarily just creating dust. So, you know, we'll see how that goes. I may put some blast gates in where I can just kind of crack them a little bit, you know, and that way I could divert the most suction to one particular device. But that's kind of what I was thinking on this manifold here. And then we drop down, and I'll go here first. I've got a blast gate here, and there'll be a flex hose on there that will go to my table saw. And of course, you could disconnect that hose and plug up another device if you were to bring a router or a joiner or a planer over here. When this blast gate and this blast gate are closed, it will control this line. Now this line is coming over here, and I haven't cut it off yet, but I'll cut it off, put a 45, and there'll be a blast gate here. And that blast gate will open and close the lathe. Okay, so I have a 4-inch connection at my lathe. And also, with that 45 connection, just like the one for the table saw, I have several pieces. You can see I've got a nice long piece of flex hose here, a nice piece of flex hose there. I've got another piece back there, and I can basically disconnect the lathe and connect up either my planer, my router table, my jointer, so I could connect up any one of those devices on this side of the shop or this side of the shop and be able to use them. Now, something else I added to the shop, and it's currently on the charger right now. So my shop is a little bit of a mess. I've tore it up to do this, but it's really coming together. I worked on this quite a bit on Sunday, and I want to finish it up hopefully tonight. But I bought a microphone, and I'm a little bit disappointed. I bought a lot of people said I was having trouble with my volume on my microphone on my phone. So I went out and bought a Bluetooth mic for my phone. And what I found is they don't work with iPhones or even Droids, because the built-in camera app will only use the microphones on the phone or a microphone that's plugged into the auxiliary port. So I am not sure what I'm going to do. I think I spent like $70 on this mic, and now it doesn't work. So I'm a little disappointed, and I'm hoping that I can find an app that I can record with that will allow me to use this Bluetooth mic. So more to come on that. It's on the charger now. I'll keep you guys posted. I'm going to get back to work on this and see how much more I can get done today. I've done a little more modification. What I've got over here is this is the adapter that will fit into the back of the bandsaw. This adapter here actually came from this set. That was such an odd size. This is a set that I picked up from that buddy of mine in that big sale I went to. So basically I just took the hose and I had an adapter that I could mount it to. Honestly, I think I would rather go ahead and swap out to one of these conical ones. I think it'll do better. And I need to order one of those, actually a couple of those. And then this third pipe here comes out. This is not the adapter I'll use. I will be using the conical one over there. So each of those will get one of these conical ones. And I tell you what, I was really surprised. I went ahead and capped off the end over here. What'll happen is, this is not where this will be. It'll end up being back a little bit. There'll be a 45 here, and then there will be a blast gate, and I'll come off this way to go over to my lathe. But I went ahead and capped it off so that I could check the suction. And when I turn the dust collector on, all three of those are putting out a large amount of suction. So I really think this is going to work well for these three, you know, and not choking the collector down quite as much. There's a lot of pressure. Like when I shut this blast gate at the end of that line, I mean, it'll suck your hand to there. And I mean, it's hard to pull it off. And these are all, this one and this one, because they have more of the conical design, I think have more suction than that one. So I think when I switch to this particular style adapter, that'll clean that up. And then this will all be cleaned up and pushed back against the wall, so it won't look quite so messy, but that's all that's going to reside on those tables. So real happy about that. I do not have a 45, so I cannot progress at this end. I need to get the 45, get it mounted on there, get the blast gate mounted on there, and then I can make the piece that goes over to my lathe. I have everything I need but the 45. From there, I will take a second hose. I've got one hose for the lathe, and then I've got a second hose, and that second hose, I'll go ahead and put an end in that I can snap onto the blast gate, and then I can hook it to any of my other devices. The other thing I will do is I will buy and I don't have a full size one, but basically I've got one up top. It's a 4" by 4" just coupler. I will buy one of those, so if I need the distance, I can actually hook the hose for those devices directly to my lathe hose and you know, run it that way. So this is going to be really nice. I'm excited about this. Thing that I need to do is take this strap and this bag up and put it, you can't really see because of the swing there, but there is a filter on the back of my dust collector, and that the bag goes at the bottom of it, and that holds it on. So any air that's going through there, you know, you can there's a like a milk churn or like a butter churn that you can turn, and it drops that dust down, so it keeps the filter clean. Once I'm done with that, you can see back here, I have a number of cedar boards. I have this half inch. I'm sorry. Yeah, half inch. I'm sorry. MDF. And we had to break it to fit it in the car, but that's okay because I only need it for a couple of patterns and it was super cheap. And I have all kinds of hardware down there and a new router bit. I am going to start working on making my very first Adirondack chair, and this one is just so that, you know, my wife can get a look at it, see how it looks, get a feel for it. I can kind of learn some of the techniques talking about in this article. And then I've got a neighbor who's interested in a couple of them, and basically it's going to be one of those deals. Once I get the patterns made, he can just buy the wood and come over when this all clears up and we'll make them together. But I'm going to start working on that, and that's the main reason why I want to set the dust collection up, because I'm going to hook the saw up and we're going to be using that for cutting our boards, and we're going to hook the router up and we'll be using that for the patterns. Now, the only issue I have, and I can't do anything about it right now, is I told you the other day that the drive belt broke on my bandsaw, so I can't really very easily cut out my patterns. That belt is due in this week, so keep your fingers crossed I get it by the weekend, because, you know, that's really when I work on it. I'm just going to start prepping some of this stuff because I don't have a whole lot of time today. But yeah, things are coming together right now. Let me show you the shop. It's a wreck. I think what we're going to do is start cleaning the shop up, you know, just putting things back where they go, because I had to really move it around to get all of this accomplished, because I was up on a ladder, etc. But we'll get the bag put on, we'll get the shop straightened up, and then we'll see what we can start to do on these Adirondack chairs. Oh, one other thing. See this sandpaper sorter? I think this is going to disappear. I haven't been making a lot of stuff in the shop because every time I come out here, I make something. And I always think, man, I really wish I had this or I had that, or the shop was better organized. That's what I'm working on. I think this is going to come out because really it's sorts of sandpaper, but there's only a few pieces in each tray. And I mean, it's not that big of a deal. I could put them in a small box or hang them on the wall or whatever. I think I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to build a small platform there. And I think on that platform right here, I'm going to put my shop back. And above it, I think I may put my blue drum the drum will be able to be lifted off and moved around, obviously, so I can get it closer to the door for the cars. And then to the left side, I think I'm going to put my air conditioner so that I can just run the exhaust pipe right up to the window and it's nice and close. So if I get rid of that, and of course I had to move all of these out of the way, I got to find some place for those, but we'll find a spot, you know, we'll consolidate or find a spot on the wall, but I think that's going to be next up. So I'll keep you guys posted on what happens. There is a lot going on in the shop. I don't know how well you can see this with it being so dark, but I've drawn a 1" by 1" grid on this MDF. And here are the plans that I have for the Adirondack chair. And you can see the grid. The grid talks about, you know, the curves for the arms. You can see that one there. So what I'm going to do basically is go back and I'm going to transfer that tiny grid to this 1" by 1" grid. And then when I get the belt for my bandsaw, I will cut those out. And then we'll take them to the disc sander and we'll get them shaped nice and smooth so that I can go to the router and I can use a spiral bit with a ball bearing in it, or not a ball bearing, a set of bearings or a bearing. I can run the bearing along this pattern and I can perfectly cut out the arms to my chair with my router. The rest of the parts, you know, some of these, they have to be tapered, and that's not a problem because I have that sled there that will allow me to do probably all of, if not all of, at least 90% of what I need to do. And those parts are listed length and dimension from top to bottom and angle that you're going to cut. They're all listed in the paperwork. So really, I'm just going to create these two pieces today. The two, well, this is the base piece here, and then this is the arm piece. So that's what I'm working on right now. Take a look at the dust coming down through the expel pipe and going into the canister. That's so awesome. This is for the chair arm. This one here is for the base. And over here is for, this is one of the braces under the chair arm. And what I was working on here is I need to taper the back of the chair from 2 3/4 inches at the top down to 2 inches at the bottom. And I'm just working with, you know, my saw, making the adjustments. Once I figure out where to set it, I should be able to make those relatively easily. But that's it for me tonight. I'm calling it quits. We'll be back out tomorrow, or, well, probably not tomorrow, maybe Wednesday after work. I've got some stuff to do tomorrow after work, but see if we can't get a few more patterns laid out so that we can start making these Adirondack chairs, hopefully this weekend.